This story is titled, My Family Mocked Me for Being Broke, until I cut them off financially and stopped paying their pills. Their world fell apart, and now they want me back. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Hey Reddit, never thought I'd be dumping my personal drama here, but I seriously need to get this crap off my chest. Feels like I'm gonna explode if I don't tell someone what's been happening. This might be long AF, so settle in. So I'm Ethan, 29, male, and I work at a quick stop gas station. Night shift mostly. Ring up gas, sell lottery tickets, deal with drunk people at 2 a.m. You know the drill. Not exactly living the dream, right? At least that's what my family thinks. See, 5 years ago my parents died in a car crash. Totally unexpected. Messed me up for a long time. They left behind their house and some savings, which got put into this trust thing their lawyer set up. I'm the one who manages it, and for years I've been using it to help out my extended family. My Aunt Diane, 52, Uncle Greg, 54, and my cousins Tyler, 27, and Jason, 25. They think they're living the good life on their own dime. They're not. I pay 70% of Diane and Greg's mortgage. Their fancy vacations? Mostly me. The cars they flex? Guess where the money's coming from. But they think it's some government assistance program for families of accident victims. I never corrected them because, frankly, I don't care. I drive a beat-up 2009 Honda that rattles when it hits 55 miles per hour. I live in a basic apartment, rotate through the same 5 t-shirts. Not because I'm broke, but because I don't see the point of spending money on nonsense. My parents taught me how to handle money, and I actually listened. Anyway, a couple of weeks ago, we had dinner at their place. Big house, fancy kitchen. Basically, my money well spent. I brought homemade lasagna, my mom's recipe. Walk in, and the first thing I hear is Diane telling Jason, at least someone in this family knows how to treat themselves, while shooting me a look. Yeah, okay. Dinner starts. Uncle Greg brags about his golf membership, mine. Tyler flexes his smartwatch, mine. Jason's hyped about some concert, yep, mine. Then Diane, in her usual passive-aggressive way, goes, Ethan, honey, don't you think it's time you got a real job? Your father always knew how to present himself. I didn't even blink. Just took another bite of lasagna. The same lasagna she was raving about 5 minutes ago, assuming it was store-bought because, in her mind, I couldn't possibly afford quality ingredients. Then Jason, ever the golden child, chimes in, Not everyone can make something of themselves, Mom. Ethan's doing his best. Oh, my bad. I must have forgotten that I fund your entire life, Jason. Then they start talking about their upcoming Cancun trip. Booked on a credit card, that's being paid off by me. They don't even bother inviting me, which, honestly, is a relief. Greg, ever the philosopher, raises his glass. Some of us work hard enough to deserve nice things. All right, bro. Then Diane drops this gem. You know, Ethan, you'll always be a nobody, just like your father was before he got lucky. The room goes quiet. Even my cousins shift uncomfortably. My father wasn't lucky. He was smart, built everything from the ground up. And here these clowns are, coasting off his legacy while looking down on me. I calmly finished my plate, got up, and said I had an early shift. As I was walking out, I heard Diane laughing. Maybe we should start a GoFundMe for poor Ethan. That set my mind on fire, but I didn't react, didn't flinch. They didn't see me pause in the hallway. Didn't see me pull out my phone and open my banking app and make calls. But the next morning, I put my plan in motion. They have no idea what's coming. I've let them play pretend for 5 years. But I finally had enough. But then, something unexpected happened. A couple of nights later, I was at work, still running on that quiet fury, when she pulled into the gas station. 11 p.m., flat tire. Looking stressed, but not helpless. That was the first time I met Jessica. She was gorgeous. Like, the kind of gorgeous that makes you do a double take. But she was also real. No fake attitude, no entitlement. Kindergarten teacher, loved her job, laughed at my dumb jokes without forcing it. While I changed her tire, we talked, and for the first time in a while, I actually enjoyed a conversation where no one was trying to impress me. When I was done, she asked for my number. I think she was more interested. We started dating, and man, those were the best 2 months of my life. I forgot about my family bullshit. Jessica was so different from anyone I've ever met. She didn't care about fancy stuff at all. She drove this old Corolla that made my Honda look fancy, lived in this tiny apartment with a roommate to save money, and was totally cool with our cheap dates. We'd grab $5 pizza and watch movies at my place, or go hiking, or just drive around talking for hours. For the first time since my parents died, I felt like someone actually saw me, not just the gas station guy everyone looks down on. Then one Sunday, my family sent the usual dinner invite. Normally, I'd go, take my usual punches, and leave. This time, I showed up with Jessica. I warned Jessica that my family could be a bit much, but nothing could have prepared either of us for what happened. The moment we walked in, I could see Aunt Diane sizing Jessica up, checking out her simple sundress and non-designer purse. Her face had that tight smile I knew meant trouble. "Oh, Ethan, you didn't tell us you were bringing a friend," Diane said, emphasizing friend like she couldn't believe anyone would date me. Uncle Greg barely looked up from his phone. "Hey, kid, there's extra chairs in the garage." Real classy welcome. I got the chairs while Jessica tried to make conversation. When I came back from the garage, Tyler had somehow positioned himself next to Jessica, showing her pictures of his recent trip to Hawaii on his phone. "I go there twice a year," he was saying. "Maybe next time you could come. With better company, of course." He winked at her while shooting me a look. Jessica laughed uncomfortably and scooted closer to me when I sat down. I squeezed her hand under the table, trying to silently apologize for my family's behavior. Dinner started, and it just got worse. Every time Jessica mentioned something about our relationship, my family found a way to make me look pathetic. "Ethan took me to this cute little Italian place last weekend," Jessica said, trying to join the conversation. "Oh, you mean Salvatore's?" Diane laughed. "That's where we take the kids for birthday parties. I'm surprised Ethan could afford even that on his gas station salary." Jessica's smile did this little falter thing that made my stomach hurt. "Speaking of jobs," Jason chimed in, "did Ethan tell you he's been at that gas station for what, 4 years now? No ambition to move up?" "I think it's admirable," Jessica defended me. "He's reliable and his customers like him." Tyler nearly spit out his drink laughing. "Customers like him? You mean the truck drivers who buy beef jerky at 2 a.m.? Not exactly a career path." I tried to change the subject, but they weren't letting up. "So, Jessica," Uncle Greg said, setting down his fork, "you teach kindergarten? That's nice. Tyler here just made junior partner at his law firm. Bought himself a new Mercedes to celebrate." Jessica looked surprised. "Oh, congratulations. That's impressive. What can I say?" Tyler grinned. "Some of us have goals." The digs kept coming, one after another. How my car broke down 3 times last year? Not true. How I still hadn't paid Uncle Greg back for a loan? Also not true. He owed me money. How I probably couldn't even afford to take Jessica anywhere nice for her birthday. Through it all, Jessica kept squeezing my hand under the table, but I could see her expression changing when she looked around at my family's house, their clothes, their success. Then, looking at me, the gas station loser. Then, the final hit came from Aunt Diane. "Jessica, honey, you seem like such a nice girl. Smart, pretty. What exactly do you see in our Ethan? You know he's never going to be able to give you the life you deserve, right?" The table went quiet. Jessica's face went red. "I think Ethan has a lot to offer," she said quietly, but I could see it in her eyes. Doubt. That seed my family had planted was already growing. The rest of the night was a blur. We left early, and the car ride home was mostly silent. Jessica said she had a headache and wanted to go straight home. I nodded, but something was already off. She wasn't holding my hand like she usually did. Over the next few days, I noticed the shift. Texts took longer to get replies. Calls ended quicker. The good morning and good night messages stopped. A week later, we had dinner at her place. Usually, we'd order cheap takeout, watch some stupid show, and just talk. But that night, she barely spoke. I caught her glancing at her phone every 5 minutes. "Something wrong?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. "Just work stuff," she muttered. She never used to check her phone this much, but I was sure it wasn't work. It was something else, but couldn't put my finger on it. The following weekend, she canceled our plans last minute. "Hanging with some old friends," she said. No invite for me. A few days later, she sent me the text. "I think we need some space." Said she needed time to figure things out, that she wasn't sure we wanted the same future. That dinner with my family had opened her eyes. I kept thinking, what could it be exactly? That dinner was a whole mess. 2 weeks after our break, I found out why she really needed space. I was checking on my Instagram. I wasn't even looking for it, just scrolling. And there it was. Jessica and Tyler. Some fancy rooftop restaurant. Expensive cocktails. His caption? Upgraded her taste in men. I saw red. I could have thrown my phone across the room. I could have driven to their fancy-ass dinner and flipped the damn table. Instead, I got quiet. Because anger is loud, But revenge? That's silent. Apparently, Tyler got in her head. He'd been texting her. I found out from Jason later. Ethan's a great guy, but can he really give you the life you want? You deserve more than just struggling to get by. It's okay to want stability. And Jessica? She bought it. That night, I sat in my apartment staring at that picture for hours. 5 years of helping these people, and this is how they repay me. They didn't just mock me. They wanted to take everything I have. But Tyler thought he won. He had no idea what was coming. I made my decision then and there. I called my financial advisor. Remember that plan we discussed? It's time. He sounded concerned. Are you sure? Once we start this process? I'm sure, I said. They've taken everything else. They don't get to take my dignity too. This wasn't just about Jessica anymore. This was about 5 years of disrespect while I quietly kept them afloat. It was time to pull the plug. Then I sat down and went through everything. I knew the numbers were bad, but seeing them all laid out at once? Holy crap. Here's what my broke ass has been paying for all these years. Their 5-bedroom house in the nice part of town, that's $1,960 every freaking month, pulled directly from the trust I manage. They never once questioned where the money actually comes from. Like, who thinks the government just hands out free mortgage money for years? Uncle Greg's precious golf club membership costs $375 monthly. He calls it his networking expenses and acts like it's some crucial business investment. The dude sells insurance for a living. The only thing he networks about is his golf swing. Then there's my cousin Tyler's 2022 Mercedes at $785 monthly payment. Yeah, that car he used to pick up Jessica? I'm paying for it. And Jason's 2021 Audi runs me $675 monthly. He hit a mailbox while texting last year, and I paid the $3,200 repair bill too. Every single one of their luxuries, every vacation, every designer bag, every emergency that needed a quick cash infusion had all been coming from the same place, from me. And they had the audacity to look down on me, to mock my job, my car, my life, while they flaunted their success they hadn't even earned. That afternoon, I had to drop off some insurance documents at their house. Nobody was home, but I have a key. I'm the emergency contact after all. As I was leaving the papers in Uncle Greg's study, I noticed some printed emails on his desk. They were planning a huge engagement party for Tyler and Jessica. After 2 months of dating, everyone from their social circle is invited, except me. The email chain was something else. Diane wrote that they couldn't have me there because Jessica didn't want me making a scene. Greg agreed, saying they'd just tell me it was a small gathering. Tyler, to his microscopic credit, at least questioned it, saying I was still his cousin. Greg shut it down immediately. Life's harsh. Besides, he'd embarrass us in front of Jessica's family. I read that line twice. Embarrass them. Like I was some stray dog they didn't want ruining their fancy event. Next to these emails, quotes for a $22,000 renovation for their master bathroom. Guess who they expect to find the money for that? I sat in my car for a while after seeing those emails. Not sad, just done. Completely done. Then, like some final pathetic joke from the universe, I got a text from Jessica. Tyler told me you've been spreading lies about his family. Please stop. They've been nothing but generous to you. Generous. I stared at the word for a long time. I didn't respond. Instead, I made some calls, set some things in motion. The trust that's been funding their lifestyle. It's not as simple as just cutting them off. But there are ways, legal ways, properly documented ways. I sat up a clear exit strategy after meeting with my financial advisor. Had all my ducks in a row. But then Aunt Diane called, insisting I come to dinner again. Said they needed to discuss something important with me. Tyler and Jessica will be there, she added, like that was supposed to be an incentive. They have big news. I knew exactly what I was walking into, but I went anyway. Time to see their true colors one last time. I arrived at 6 p.m. sharp. The first thing I noticed? Workers installing a fancy new chandelier in their entryway. Remember that home renovation I mentioned? Apparently, they decided to start early. With my money, of course. Ethan! Diane beamed with fake excitement. Don't mind the mess, we're just doing a little upgrading. You know how it is. She paused. Well, maybe you don't. I just nodded and walked in. The whole family was there, plus Jessica, all dressed up like it was some formal occasion. Tyler had his arm wrapped around Jessica's waist. She barely made eye contact with me. Uncle Greg pulled me aside before dinner. Listen, sport, we need to have a serious talk about your attitude. You've been acting jealous, and it's making everyone uncomfortable. The nerve of this man, wearing the golf club polo I paid for while telling me about attitude. Dinner started tense. They'd ordered expensive catering, on the family credit card, naturally. Then Aunt Diane clinked her glass, and Tyler stood up, pulling Jessica up with him. "We have an announcement," he said, grinning. "Jessica and I are engaged." Everyone cheered. Jessica flashed a massive diamond ring. My cousin of all people managed to snag the only girl I've cared about in years, after dating her for all of 2 months. "We're thinking a destination wedding," Tyler continued. "Maybe Hawaii or the Bahamas." "Whatever you want, sweetie," Diane cooed at Jessica. "Only the best for our new daughter-in-law," Jessica beamed. "You guys have been so amazing to me. Like the family I always wanted." I took another bite of my food I was technically paying for, and waited. Then Diane looked at me with fake sympathy. "Ethan, honey, I know this might be difficult for you, but we think it's best if you skip the engagement party and wedding. It would just be awkward for Jessica." Tyler at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. Jessica just stared at her plate. "The Williamsons are coming to the party," Uncle Greg added, "and their daughter just made VP at her investment firm. We can't have you showing up talking about your gas station. It reflects poorly on us." I took another bite of my food and smiled. "Which gas station stories would those be, Uncle Greg? The ones about how I manage a trust worth millions? Or the ones about how I've been paying your mortgage for 5 years?" The room went dead silent. "What are you talking about?" Aunt Diane snapped. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app. "Let's talk numbers, shall we? Would you like to start with the mortgage, the cars, or maybe that nice new chandelier that just went in?" Jason laughed nervously. "What's he talking about, Mom?" "He's obviously confused," Aunt Diane said quickly. "The house payments come from the government assistance program after his parents—" "There is no government program," I said calmly. "There never was. It's all been me. Through the trust my parents set up. Every single payment." Uncle Greg stood up, his face red. "Now you listen here." "No," I cut him off. "You listen. For 5 fucking years, I've paid your mortgage, your cars, your bills, your golf club membership, your vacations, everything." Tyler dropped his fork. "That's not— Dad, what's he talking about?" Jessica was staring at me, her face going pale. Aunt Diane's face went from red to white. "You're lying. You can barely afford gas for that trash car of yours." I started showing them screenshots, bank statements, transfer records, everything. That engagement ring on Jessica's finger, charged to the family credit card last week. The one I pay? The Bahamas wedding you're planning? Good luck with that. The bathroom renovation? Hope you got a good deposit deal. They exploded. All of them. Screaming, denying, threatening. Aunt Diane knocked over her wine glass, staining her new tablecloth red. Uncle Greg kept yelling about lawyers. Tyler was trying to explain to Jessica, who looked like she was about to throw up. I stayed seated, kept eating, let them tire themselves out. Finally, when they quieted down, I stood up. "Check your emails tomorrow morning, all of you. Everything will be explained in detail, including the 60-day notice for new payment arrangements." Aunt Diane lunged forward, grabbing my arm. "You can't do this to us. We're family." "Family?" I pulled my arm away. "Family doesn't call family worthless, exclude family from gatherings, or steal girlfriends and then mock the relationship." I looked at Jessica. "And you, little gold digger. Enjoy the life they can't actually afford. Hope that ring was worth it." I walked to the door, turned back one last time. "By the way, that trash car of mine, fully paid off, unlike your cars, your house, or anything else you own." Left them all standing there screaming and crying. Got in my car, drove home. Their phones have been blowing up my phone ever since. Texts, calls, voicemails ranging from threats to begging to promises to change. Too late. Everything is prepared. Documents are ready. Lawyers are on standby. The next morning, 9 a.m. sharp, I sent the emails. Every single detail laid out in black and white. 5 years of transactions, receipts, wire transfers, mortgage payments, credit card bills, and car loans. No fluff, no explanations, just numbers. Cold, undeniable numbers. At the bottom, an official notice. All financial support ends in 60 days. Then I turned off my phone. I didn't sit around waiting for the fallout. I grabbed my keys, drove across town to a coffee shop I'd never been to, and sat there for 2 hours drinking the best damn espresso of my life. For the first time in years, I felt free. When I turned my phone back on, the screen nearly froze from the flood of notifications. 63 missed calls, 214 text messages, 43 Facebook messages. They had officially lost their minds. Aunt Diane was first to show up at my apartment. Didn't even knock, just started pounding on the door around noon. "Ethan, open this door right now. You can't do this to us." I opened the door. She barged in, mascara running, waving her phone with the email displayed. "This is a joke, right? This has to be a joke." Her voice was loud enough to alert my neighbors. I shrugged, barely looking at her. Diane, tears don't pay mortgages. You should know that by now. She looked confused as hell. You have 60 days to arrange new financing for everything, I continued. We'll be ruined. The mortgage, the cars, everything. How could you do this to family? Let's talk about family. Let's talk about calling me worthless, about excluding me from gatherings, about your son stealing the one good thing I had going for me. She switched tactics instantly, crying, trying to hug me. We didn't know. We're sorry. We can change. No, Aunt Diane, you can't. The trust dissolves in 60 days. Everything stops. The mortgage, the car payments, the credit cards, all of it. That's when Uncle Greg burst in. Apparently, she texted him my address. He was red-faced, veins popping. You ungrateful little... He stepped toward me aggressively. Bad move. One more step, I said calmly, and I call the police. Then the payments stop today instead of in 60 days. He froze, the reality of the situation finally hitting him. Then my cousins arrived. Tyler looked shell-shocked, like his whole world had just collapsed in real time. Jason was panicking. What about Jessica? Tyler kept saying. What am I supposed to tell her? The truth might be a good start, I said, leaning back, arms crossed. That you're a fraud who can't afford his own lifestyle, let alone hers. But the engagement, the ring, she's going to leave me. His voice cracked. I smiled. Well, at least now you know what it's like to have something stolen from you. Sucks, doesn't it? Tyler blinked rapidly, swallowing hard, his hands clenched into fists. He had nothing to say. The next few hours were complete chaos. Aunt Diane crying on my couch. Uncle Greg pacing, making calls to his golf club connections for loans. Tyler having what looked like a panic attack. Jason just sitting there, staring at nothing. Then came the text from Jessica. Is it true? About the money? I didn't even respond. Just turned my phone toward Tyler and let him see it. He looked at his phone, then at me, defeated. What do I tell her? I don't care, I said. Not my problem anymore. Then Aunt Diane tried one last tactic. Your parents would be ashamed of you. The room went silent. I walked to my bedroom, came back with a folder. Inside, letters from my parents detailing exactly how the trust should be used. For genuine family emergencies. For education. For health issues. Not for golf memberships and luxury vacations. I let them read in silence. Then I spoke. My parents worked their entire lives to build something real. They set this up to help family in need, not to fund leeches. You want to talk about shame? They'd be ashamed of you. Diane crumpled. This time, the sobbing was real. She barely made it back home from my apartment before the consequences started rolling in. The chandelier company called about their overdue balance. Apparently, that fancy imported piece of overpriced glass and metal they just had to have wasn't fully paid off. The check bounced. The workers came the next morning to take it down. Greg got a call too. His beloved golf club, the one where he pretended to be a big-shot businessman while selling insurance, canceled his membership. Turns out, when you don't pay your dues, you don't get to keep playing on their pristine, overpriced grass. But the biggest collapse? Tyler. His engagement with Jessica imploded when he finally had to sit her down and confess that his wealth was nothing more than smoke and mirrors. Jessica, bless her heart, had apparently assumed that his life of first-class vacations and luxury cars came from his success, not from a trust fund he never even knew existed until it was gone. So the engagement party? Canceled. The destination wedding? Never happening. I heard all of this secondhand from Jason, who had the common sense to realize that maybe I wasn't the villain in this story. Unlike the rest of them, Jason actually listened when I cut them off. He didn't try to fight it, didn't beg or scream or threaten. He just disappeared for a while. Meanwhile, Diane and Greg were scrambling to refinance their house. But with their credit history, years of spending like royalty while carrying mountains of debt, no bank wanted to touch them. 2 weeks later, I drove past their house in my so-called trash car. Diane was standing outside in a robe, arms crossed, watching as workers took down her precious chandelier. She didn't notice me. She was too busy watching her world crumble. I didn't feel bad, not even a little. Because while their house was falling apart, I had finally moved into mine, my parents' old home. The one they lived in before they bought the bigger place. The one that actually had history in it. That wasn't just a showpiece for fake status. I had bought it, in cash. And now, it was mine. No mortgage, no debt, no parasites leeching off me. It's been 7 months. That's how long it's been since I dropped the hammer and walked away from the mess that used to be my so-called family. 7 months since I stopped paying for people who treated me like garbage. And damn, it feels good. I quit the gas station job. No more scanning lottery tickets for desperate gamblers or dealing with drunk idiots at 2 a.m. The last time I clocked out, I didn't even look back. That place was never meant to be permanent. It was just something to do while my money kept the leeches fed. But now that they were cut off, now that I didn't have to be their walking ATM, I had options. So I took one. For years, I'd been good with cars. My dad used to teach me when I was a kid how to change oil, replace brake pads, diagnose engine problems. It was never just a hobby, though. I enjoyed it. Working with my hands, solving problems, getting things running again. So I took what was left of the trust money, the money I wasn't wasting on ungrateful people, and I put it into something real. I opened my own auto repair shop. I called it Honest Mechanic, because if there was one thing I'd learned from my family, it was how sick people were of getting lied to. Turns out, when you don't scam customers, when you don't upsell them fake repairs, when you just do the damn job right, people appreciate that. Who would have thought? Started with just me. One guy, one rented garage, a couple of used lifts, and a sign that barely fit over the entrance. Within 2 months, I was swamped with work. Word spread. People liked having a mechanic who wasn't out to bleed them dry. By month 4, I had 2 other guys working with me, and we were profitable. My financial advisor even told me it was rare for a new business to turn a profit that fast. And then came Vanessa. I needed someone to handle the front desk, scheduling, managing orders, making sure I didn't waste time dealing with idiots who don't know their car needs an oil change. I hired Vanessa, and let me tell you, this woman runs the place like a damn CEO. Mid-20s, sharp as hell, and yeah, I won't lie, drop-dead gorgeous. But unlike Jessica, she doesn't need a guy with money to make her feel important. Customers love her. My guys listen to her. And she doesn't fawn over me or try to flirt her way into an easy ride. She respects me. When she talks to me, it's boss to boss. I'm not saying I'm interested, but if I were, at least this time it'd be with someone who actually saw value in me before the money. Now, every morning I wake up, drive to my own business, and spend the day working on cars. Real work. Meanwhile, my family? They're still crashing. Uncle Greg lost the house first. Couldn't refinance, couldn't catch up on payments, and the bank wasn't in the business of giving second chances to people who spent every dime they had trying to impress strangers. Last I heard, he's working as a sales associate at a hardware store. I actually ran into him once while buying supplies for the shop. He saw me, froze, then turned around and walked the other way. Diane. Her pride took the hardest hit. She was so used to being the queen of her little world, the well-dressed, well-manicured lady of the house. Now, she's working as a receptionist at a dental office. No more brunches, no more fancy shopping trips. She takes the bus to work. I see her sometimes at the stop when I drive by. She keeps her head down. And Jason? I'll give him credit. He actually took this as a wake-up call. He went back to school, working toward an associate's degree in accounting. He even sent me a text a few months ago. You were right about everything. I'm sorry. I didn't respond. Not because I hate him, but because I'm not ready for that yet. Then there's Tyler. He had the biggest fall of them all. Turns out, when you spend years lying about your status, pretending you have powerful connections, and flexing wealth that was never yours, people notice when the money dries up. His law firm dug into his client list and found out half of it was bullshit. They fired him. Now, he's bartending downtown, living in a tiny apartment with 2 roommates. The BMW he used to show off, repossessed 3 months after I cut them off. Oh, and Jessica? Dumped his ass right after the engagement party got canceled. Apparently, she wasn't interested in wedding vows that included for richer or poorer. I heard she moved back in with her parents. Guess Tyler wasn't such an upgrade after all. He doesn't post on social media anymore. The only contact I've had was a Christmas card from Diane and a birthday text from Jason. That's it. Some relationships? Not worth saving. But there was one person who did try to come back. Jessica. 2 months after everything went down, she walked into my shop like nothing happened. No warning, no text. Just waltzed in like she still had a place in my life. She glanced around, taking it all in. Your place looks great. I didn't stop working. Didn't even look up. I wanted to talk. Maybe explain my side of things. That got me to look at her. No designer clothes, no flashy jewelry, just jeans, a t-shirt, and a nervous expression. Your side? I laughed. You dumped me after one dinner, dated my cousin, got engaged to him in record time, and then ghosted me. Which part needs explaining? She swallowed hard. I made a mistake. No kidding. Tyler seemed so successful, so confident. Your family made you sound like you had no ambition, no future. I was stupid and shallow. I said, Yeah, you were. She blinked, probably expecting me to comfort her. To say, no, it's okay, I understand, I didn't. I miss you, she tried. The way things were before. Simple dates, real conversations, just us. You miss me now that you know I have money? I laughed. That's not fair. I didn't know about any of that. But you knew me, and that should have been enough. Her eyes watered, calculated, not real. Can we just start over? Her voice was careful, like she knew the answer but was hoping I'd prove her wrong. Before I could answer, Vanessa poked her head in from the office. Hey boss, just a heads up. Client with the Mustang is here. Want me to handle it? Jessica's face shifted. She hadn't noticed Vanessa before, and the second she did, she knew. This wasn't a dingy gas station anymore. This wasn't broke, desperate Ethan. I wasn't waiting around, hoping for her approval. I wiped my hands on a rag and stood up straight. Nah, I don't do charity cases, Jessica. Not even for old times' sake. Her confident little smirk faltered. She glanced at Vanessa, then back at me, probably realizing she had already been replaced by someone smarter, hotter, and actually loyal. You don't mean that, she muttered. I laughed, sharp and short. Yeah, I do. She swallowed hard. For the first time ever, Jessica was speechless. So that's it? She whispered. Just like that? Just like that. I didn't wait for her to say anything else. Just turned to Vanessa. Take care of Mustang Guy. Let's get that tune-up done by noon. Vanessa nodded, smirking as she glanced at Jessica before walking off. Jessica turned, her posture stiff, and walked out the door. I didn't watch her leave. I had better things to do. The biggest lesson I learned? Don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Now, I wake up every day, walk into my own shop, drive home to my house, and make my own choices. And it feels damn good. Edit. Since so many are asking, yes, I'm genuinely happy now. Not in that fake social media way, but in that quiet contentment way where you go to bed feeling good about your choices. It took a while to get here, but it was worth it. Edit 2. To the guy who asked if I'd help my family if they were literally about to be homeless. I don't know, man. That's a bridge I'll cross if I come to it, but it would be with very clear boundaries this time.